Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk about Netlify Dev. Netlify Dev is one of Netlify's products that makes it very easy and possible for you to run all of Netlify's entire platform within your terminal, right? What this means is that you can build your applications, you can deploy it, you can create serverless functions, you can add environment variables and all that good stuff to your applications right within your terminal and never having to go to the browser and do all that back and forth. So that's what I want to take a look at today. Hopefully at the end of this tutorial, we'll create just a simple HTML form that sends user data through a serverless function to a database and back. And that's it. So hopefully this will give us the opportunity to touch on how to install and use the Netlify Dev CLI tool, how to create applications, how to use serverless functions, how to use databases and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's get started. I think the first thing you want to do is come to netlify.com/products/dev to see the product page for Netlify Dev. And if you click on it, you'll see that this is how to install the package. So if you don't already have it, you can just copy this command and go to your terminal. I'm using Hyper and run that command, and this should install the latest version for you. I think I should actually do this again because I think my version is one release behind the current one. So when this is done, we can go ahead and start creating our project. Okay, this is done, and let me just go ahead and clear this and create a new project with Netlify in it. Before I go any further, let me also tell you that you can shorten this command. There's a shorthand for this. So instead of typing the entire Netlify word, you can write NTL, and that should also do it. So NTL init will create a new project manually. Yes, I will put it on my personal team, and let's call it Netlify Dev since that's what we're trying to do. I kind of just like adding demo at the end. Netlify Dev demo already exists. Okay, I thought that might happen. I might probably be the one that owns a site with that name. I don't know, but let's see if Netlify Dev demo. What about this? Does this exist? I don't know. Let me do the other one. What about this? Exists. You'll just bear with me until I find a comfortable name. Netlify Dev demo. What about that? Okay, that worked. Cool. So now I have an application created with this name. Let me go ahead and open it up in VS Code. Let me bring that in here. And at the moment, I just have a .netlify file and a gitignore file. So let's go ahead and create a TOML file. Netlify.toml, which is how we tell Netlify where to locate our site. So I'll put in a build, and here I'll say publish directory can be found in a dist folder. Right, so now I have to create the dist folder. Dist. And this is where I'll put all the site's contents. So for now, let me just create an index.html file. And let's do the same for CSS. Okay, so that's it. We have a bare minimum HTML and CSS file that we want to populate. Before we do that though, I think what I want to build is just a HTML form, basically, that will collect input from users, use a serverless function, post that input to a database, and return a value So I don't want to go ahead and write all this HTML myself, so I will I'll find it somewhere online. I think I should be able to do that. CSS forms W3 schools should work. Let's look at that, see if there's a sample I can copy. This looks good. Okay, I can totally copy this. I'll take the CSS first. If only I can find my VS Code. It's here. Put this here, save it, and get the form. Okay, I think that's all I need from here. Then I put my HTML in here. Cool. So now I can run this with Netlify Dev. Actually, I can use the VS Code integrated terminal as well and do Netlify Dev. What is going on? Oh my god, this is why. Spelled it wrong. Publish should be dist. So did this auto reload? Let me start the server again. This should work now. There you go. So that's my HTML. I just need to link my CSS now to get it all looking good. CSS to index.css. And if I reload, there you go. So I have my form working exactly as I wanted. The next thing I want to do now is create a way, just give this a way to collect the form and post it to a serverless function. And to do that, I just want, at the moment, let me show you the functionality here. If I put in my name and my last name and save this, actually before I do that, let's just change this to a post so that it works as expected. Let's make a method post, and instead of going to action underscore php or whatever that default value is, let's send it to add user. Right, so what I want to do is, this is a post method. I want to go to this route whenever this form is submitted. And now how I want to architect this is, when this route shows up on my browser, I want to intercept it and collect all the data that this form is posting to that route. And I want to do that in my netlify.toml file. So for now, this function doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and create it with Netlify Dev. And I'll clear this up first. And I think the command is Netlify functions create. And let's run that. Yes, you can live in this directory. That's good with me. JavaScript works. Let's just select a basic hello world and call it add user. So this has been created, but if you look at it directly, created it in Netlify /functions /add user and then add user.js. So I want to get rid of this other folder because I don't know, it's just, I don't really like that there's another, where is that? Here. So I'll bring this one out. I'll get rid of this folder. I just like doing that. Just this, it's just my preference. So now I have Netlify functions and then the function itself. This is probably a very good boilerplate code to get started. What's going on here is we're getting the form values from the query string parameters, but we are not going to use query string parameters in this case. Let me just show you. why there's functions.netlify.com. And if you go to the playground, you should get a post example, which is this one, right? Because in this case, if we did not specify that this is a post, the form will handle it as a get by default, and that's when this when it will post the values as query string parameters. But in this case, we want to make a post, and if you're making a post, this is how you handle that. Actually, let me get all of this because we'll probably need them and use it here instead. So what happens is I'm getting query string, I'm using it to destructure out the content of the form. Actually, let me do the whole thing at once. I can do const I'll get the first name. I think that's the thing we're sending from the form. Last name and the country from params. Cool. And just to be sure that params is what we expect it to be, let me just log that here. And now what I want to do when that is the case is save this entire thing into a user object and send it back. So let's make that object, call it user data. And what I want to put in here is the same things we got from the form, the last name and the country. And this is what I want to send back to the user. So do a JSON.stringify. What is this? And I'll send in the user data object. So that's about it. Check if the method is not post. If that's the case, send the response back. If it is a post, destructure the content from the form, save it into a user data object and send it back to the user. So I'll save my TOML file. Hopefully I did all this right, and go to this method post. Let's look at the form. It all looks okay. So let's try this out then. Where is my demo running? I'm not sure, but I do it again here. Put in John Doe. John Doe is from Canada. And let's try to submit this. Method not allowed. I think I made it a post. I did. So what is going on? I'm not sure what's going on, so let me restart the server. Sometimes that could really just be the problem. All right, let me do this again. John Doe from USA this time. Okay, so now method is allowed. That seems to be working, but handler is not defined. I think we can easily fix that one. Okay, I copied this code from the documentation page, so I didn't catch that. So const handler is this, and then we export handler here. Good, that should work. Now, what did I do? If I try to resubmit this form, and then it works, right? Fantastic. So it's getting posted to our serverless function, and the serverless function is returning it back to the user. And that's all good. But that's not all we want to do. The next thing is to take these user data objects that we've gotten from the form and send it to a database, right? More like save user to Supabase, because I'd like to use Supabase for this demo. I already went ahead and created a Supabase project for this. I called it Netlify Dev Demo. At the moment, it's just an empty table of users that has two columns, an ID and a user. The user column is a JSON, or is of type JSON, and that's it. So nothing new here. If you're new to Supabase, welcome to the team. I am also new to Supabase, so this is my second project using Supabase. I'm still trying to get used to the whole layout of the place. So this is cool. I think the first one was really easy and intuitive for me, so that's why I'm using it again for this demo. So if you're new to Supabase, the first thing you want to do is install the JavaScript client, which I'm going to go ahead and do. Actually, let me do it here. And while that's going on, let me go ahead and try to see how to get the keys. I'm not sure I remember exactly how, but under API, I think maybe authentication. Yes, so this is the anon key and the Supabase URL. So the good thing is, working with this will also give me the opportunity to show you how to set environment variables from Netlify Dev. Ordinarily, if you're working with serverless functions like this and you want to protect your details, like secret keys, API keys, and all of this good stuff, what you need to do is, maybe what you would ordinarily do is create a .env file and put all the variables there. But that also means that when you deploy your site, or even before you deploy your site, you have to set the same environment variables on your Netlify dashboard so that it's in sync and so that your site can work properly. But you also stand the risk of not ignoring that file and pushing it to the world and having all your secrets not be so much of a secret. So what you can do is use Netlify Dev to set and create environment variables. That way it's the same everywhere and it's not even available. There's no file containing that variables in your code base, but it works nonetheless. And how to do that is, if I remember correctly, is Netlify env set, then the variable name, let's call this one Supabase underscore URL, and the value is, let me just copy that from here. So this is fine. You all can see it is not so much of a secret because I'll probably delete this project after this recording. And set that. Cool. And the next one I want to do is Netlify env set, let's call this one Supabase key, and the value for this is all of this long thing. So I'll copy this, put it here, and that should be it. Cool. So back to the Supabase documentation. Let me try and see, how do I really use this? Right, I can come back here and see if I can find a usage example. Okay, so I think this is how this is used. So let me come back to my code and just create a utility folder so I can add my database code in there, and let's call it database.js. Okay, so what I want to do is, I already installed this, so I'm just going to bring it in. Const, it's called create client. Yes. And I'm bringing it in. Oh my God, what did I write? Create client, yes. And this will come from the package I just installed, which is, yes, this one. Cool. And the next thing I want to do is create the actual Supabase client with the environment variables that I just set. And to do that, I'll just do const Supabase URL is equal to process.env dot, what did I call it? Supabase URL underscore URL, and do the same for Supabase key. Okay, so now we use these keys to create the Supabase client. Export .supabase, it should be create client, and then we can pass in the URL and the key. Supabase key and I think I should pass in the URL first, not the key first. So Supabase key, and this one will be the URL. I'm not sure if the order is important, but I want to stick to what is on the documentation. So I think they did the URL and then the key, so that's why I'm changing mine. Yeah, I think this should be it. So Supabase is initialized here. So now what I want to do is go back to my add user serverless function. And use this database and post the data that I'm getting from the form. Post this user data to my Supabase database. Okay, so save user to database. So let's do that here. Let me quickly comment out this one and set up a try catch block and see. So what I want to do now is const data error await Supabase dot from the user table that I created earlier. Is it user or users? Let me check just to be sure. Table editor is here. It's called users. Okay, so from the users table, then I want to insert, let me do that here. And what I want to insert is an object that says user is user data, right? So that's that. If this is successful, I want to log the data that came back from the database, and now I want to return an object with a status code 200, and oh no, this mic is standing in the way of my site. Can't see really well. Okay, and then I'll send a body, which once again is going to be JSON.stringify the data that we got from the database. Cool. If that's not the case, I just want to log whatever the error is. So save this, and I commented this out. Let's go over it one more time, right? So the user fills the form, we post the form to this route, we define our redirect rule to accept whatever is coming to this route and post it to this function, and in the function we are collecting this data that is coming from the form, saving it into a user data object, Now we are saving it to our Supabase database that we've just connected to our site, and then we are returning the response back to the user, which is exactly what we wanted to do. Haven't tested this in a while, so let's go ahead and find out what's going to happen when we try to do that. Okay, let me reload this and do, well, let's go ahead and do my name. And in this case, I'm from USA. Let's try that. Click Supabase URL is required. I think that was provided, wasn't it? Where is this Supabase URL? I'm not sure. Maybe the Netlify Dev is not picking up the environment variables that I set. So let me try and refresh the server now, and maybe that should work. Okay, and let's try this again. Kenny, and save this. Cool, that works. Fantastic. So that's weird because ordinarily I wouldn't need to reload the server for this to work, but I guess we find out new things every time. So let's refresh and see if I got the user saved in my database. Fantastic, there you go. So just because I'm having so much fun with this, I'm going to try it again with a different person. We use Phil. I'm going to say that Phil is from Canada now, and let's try to submit this again. And there you go. Looks like it's all working as expected. Refresh this database. I should have 2 entries now, myself and Phil. Cool. All right, so that's how you work with Netlify Dev and create functions and manage environment variables and use databases. So now let's try and deploy this site actually to Netlify. So at the moment, I think if I check my Netlify account, I should see that I have a Netlify Dev project, this one, right? If I click into it, you see that it's not deployed yet. So let's go ahead and do Netlify deploy. If you run this command, the site is going to get deployed as a draft, but you can always add the -- prod flag to say do a production deploy. So let's do this. Fingers crossed. Going on. And there you go. The site is deployed. And if I refresh this page now, I should see that it is indeed deployed. So click into it. See our application. Let's test this with Ben. And put Hong and say that Ben is from the US and submit. And everything is still working as expected. So let's check just to make sure. Fantastic, 3 entries. All right, so thank you very much for watching. That is how to use the Netlify Dev to build, deploy, manage environment variables, create functions, and do all that good stuff. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will do my best to keep giving you good content. Thank you, and see you next time.